Hi, I'm Shannon Goblin from AgSolutions Australia, and in 2017 we held a horse nutrition event with the keynote speaker being Dr. Nerida Richards from FeedXL. Now, whenever we talk about horse nutrition, a great place to start is with the gastrointestinal tract. So the following video features Nerida discussing the horse's small intestine.
So the small intestine, it's drawn here as this big long squiggly hose. It's about 27 metres long and an average 500 kilo horse. It doesn't actually look like that if you pull it out of a horse, does it, Doug? It's all joined together by a very, very thin membrane, but it is essentially just one big long tube. So this is where the digestion of protein, fat and non-structural carbohydrate happens. So I've got my little fluffy yellow ball prop that I find extremely useful. So when a horse eats food, there's a whole lot of things in that food, and three of the most important things are protein, fat and non-structural carbohydrate. So an example of non-structural carbohydrate is glucose, which is the white stuff, or starch, sorry, which is the white stuff inside the grain. So if you break open a barley grain or you break open a corn grain or something, you can see the white stuff in the middle, that's starch. And all starch is a whole bunch of glucose molecules joined together. So if you imagine, this is why I need like the other microphone, because I need more than two hands. If you imagine that is starch, no, it's all right, it's good. Imagine that's starch, and each of those little yellow balls is a piece of glucose, all right? So when this goes into the horse's small intestine, a horse can't absorb something that's that big, because if it started absorbing really large molecules like this, it would also be absorbing bacteria and a whole heap of other muck from the small intestine that just shouldn't get into the body. So in order for the body to control what actually makes it from the gut inside the body, it chops things up into really small pieces, so it's only absorbing tiny little bits and pieces of things. So the thing, if we go to the next point, digestion is facilitated by enzymes. So the things that do the chopping in the small intestine are things called enzymes. And I just look at them like a little pairs of scissors. And there's a little pair of scissors to chop up starch, and there's little pairs of scissors that like to chop up protein, and other little pairs of scissors that like to chop up fat. But all they do is just come along and just literally chop. So starch, it literally just chops it up into single pieces of glucose, and then the horse absorbs the glucose from the small intestine. So that's all enzymes are, and that's how digestion happens in the small intestine. There's a lot of absorptions of vitamins and minerals going on in the small intestine. So calcium, for example, is absorbed in the small intestine. Things to remember, there's a rapid passage rate through the small intestine. So it moves quite quickly. So if to go back to the little and often point, if I gave you a pair of scissors and then I walked past you really slowly and said, chop that up, you'd hack it to pieces, which I'm not going to let you do because it took me ages to make it. But if I now got this and gave you a pair of scissors and just went like that, you wouldn't get a chance to chop it up, okay? So this is what's happening in the small intestine. If you feed too big of meals and you make food pass really rapidly through the small intestine, the little scissors trying to chop stuff up just don't have time to do that, and it will just keep travelling on down the gut, and the horse misses its opportunity completely to get any nutritional value out of the food that you've just fed it, because there's simply not enough time for the chopping to happen. So horses digest protein and fats really efficiently in the small intestine. They're great at digesting protein and fat. They're really bad at digesting starch from raw cereal grain. So if you feed corn or barley uncooked to a horse, they can't chop the starch up and absorb it as glucose. And we'll talk about that in detail later too. And horses, like us, don't have the enzymes necessary to digest fibre in the small intestine either.